Okay guys, so I just wanted to show you what I'm looking at now when I finish the initial flats here. So the flats go from the front of the guard and they come, you can see there that little tiny little section there, I use that as a reference. I haven't actually come all the way back. So when I'm on the flat platen, I let that flat touch all the way to there, and then I just make sure that we're getting kind of the same effect on the other side, so that when you look at the knife, the distance from the tang to the outside of the guard, that's the same. They're looking quite good. That on the front of the guard, it's looking good too. At the bottom, that area is looking good, and it's all nice, even and symmetrical, and that's what we want. That distance from the tang to the outside there is the same. So everything's looking nice and symmetrical. So you can see that I've done that with a 60 grit. I'm now going to go through and do this probably to about a 400, even just touch it with the 800, just to get this nice and even and smooth. What I'll do then is I'm going to profile these out on the belt, and I'll show you how I do that. And then we'll mark out our scales and we'll start shaping. Okay, so there we pretty much have it. I've cleaned up the flats up to, I think I took it to 400, and I've cleaned these around up to about 400 grit as well. So what I'm looking for here is no gaps between the guard and the scales. I'm very happy with that. It's looking really good all around. It's important that the glue up is, you take some attention to make sure your glue up is good. There's no gaps over there too, so for me this is the start of a very good build. Next we're going to mark the scales out, and then we're going to start working a little bit on the grinder and then finish it off with the file work. But so far that's looking pretty good. Okay guys, so what I've done here is I've just sort of eyeballed a mark here that's about, say, 10 millimeters in front of the back pin, and I've just transferred that line across to the other side. I've drawn a little circle just slightly smaller than the pin. That pin is 9 millimeters, so probably like a 7 or 8 millimeter circle, and then I've just by hand I've drawn sort of a gentle sloping line towards that, and this is going to determine the palm swell area. So just by eye I drew that as well. Normally I would use a French curve, but I'm pretty much sure of what I'm wanting, so I've just hand drawn something across there. So that's going to determine the palm swell. So all of this material is going to go over there, and I'm going to first, before I draw the pattern at the back, because I've got, you draw a sort of a roundish pattern, just something similar to that around the back. But before I do that, I want to put a little crown on there, so it's got a nice rounded shape in that profile, just a crown, and a little bit of a crown over there too, and then I'll draw the markings on there. But for now I'm just going to start by taking some of this material away. So I'm going to crown this top area. I'm just going to use a belt. When I started doing this, I used to use the files, but for now I'm pretty sort of confident that I can get this done. So I will start crowning this area right down to that point. I'll try and bring it to just above the thong tube on both sides, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've just come back from the grinder. Yeah, you can see I've crowned that area. So it's a line that swoops from there down to the back there, just above the little thong tube. I've put a slight crown on that. You can see I've put a little bit of a crown on the back here, and then just taken a little bit of the material away over here. Alright, so now I will draw the sort of end pattern that I want on the end here, and then I will start working on this area here. A lot of guys that shape handles just whack this on a wheel and hope that they get a nice curve. I don't really like that. I wanted to sort of dig in over there and then swoop up towards that point here. All this area within the pen lines are going to remain flat, so nothing changes here right up to the very end of finishing the knife. But this area outside the pen lines, it goes straight down to just behind that back pin, and then swoops up to this line that I'm going to be drawing along here. Okay, this is quite an important part here. So what I've done is I marked in pen the lines that I want to profile to at the back of the knife, and over here you can now see that I've dug in from that pen mark there to just behind the pin. I've just gone flat with the belt grinder. I've just ground that away, trying to keep it symmetrical, so the same depth that I go in there is the same depth I go in there. Just a straight grind. You can see how chunky that looks. What I'm going to start doing now is working with the belt, just getting just with the corner of the belt, starting to get a radius that goes from that back line and swoops out to over there. So that's it. Okay guys, so this is what the knife looks like now that I have finished my work on the grinder. I've sort of taken away all the material here. You can see the sort of profile that I've dug in here. I didn't do it with the radius of the wheel. I dig the edge of the wheel in, just taking away, almost carving away the areas that I don't want. So this is what the knife looks like. Now what I'm going to be doing is clamping it in my filing jig, and from here I'm going to be starting to refine the curves, doing the sanding, going through the grits of the sandpaper, and that pretty much is going to be this handle done. But there's still quite a bit of work to do. I mean, there are some areas that I need to refine with the file, and we'll take it from there. Hopefully everyone is still with me on this one. Thanks. Okay, so this is the setup. I'm just starting the initial sort of filing. It's comfortable. I know my jig doesn't look pretty, but it works. I'll be going all along these lines over here, making sure that I don't roll over onto the onto those lines, and then just starting to smooth out the work that I've done with the grinder. I just continue that. This is a file that's made by Fat, and it's a two cut, so that's sort of a medium, where I think the 3 is the fine and the 1 is the rough. So yeah, I'm just going to keep working on this, and I'll show you as I go along. Alright guys, so right now you can see that I've filed both sides, so it's pretty much got its final shape, except for the sanding that I need to do now. So I will now start with about 120 grit strips of paper, and start a little bit of the shoe shine process. Obviously this is you've just got to be careful not to overdo it. The strips are probably about 12 millimeters wide, and I'll start sanding this, replacing it often because it does get clogged up, and just starting to smooth the file marks out of the handle. I'll continue this, going up the grits to a 220, then a 400, and then an 800, and that is pretty much the scales done. I then have to shape the guard, blend the line in to the guard, and yeah, then we're pretty much there. But I'll keep you up to date on the process.